wanted to show you the display real quick, mainly to hit a couple points. It's a touchscreen display. It uses the same mounting clips as the XRs. And so we've got some swipe actions on this thing. Maybe the single most important thing about the display is you push and hold the Bluetooth icon to turn on Bluetooth. Other than that, you can start and stop a manual defrost, do a service shutdown, or reboot the controller. All new display, touchscreen. Right now, we don't have one with buttons for this controller, but the touchscreen has been getting along with the guys pretty well. Haven't had really any complaints once they figure out how to unlock it and go through there. So you push and hold the upper right corner for 5 seconds to unlock, and then swipe left and right to get to these action icons. So that'll get your defrost and Bluetooth turned on, and away you go.
You just gloss over the password just like that? Like, not even going to bring it up?
Oh, the Bluetooth password. Yeah, I'll tell you. We're getting there. Yeah.
Getting it paid. I thought he was like, yeah, I'm going to tell him. And then I was going to forget about it like I do everything else. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm like, he never told us the password.
You got to turn on Bluetooth because guess what? There's not, for better or for worse, there is not 200 parameters in this display. They're just not there. The parameters are in the mobile app and they're in the E3, but there isn't any parameters in there. The parameters that are in the display are all about getting it online with E2 or getting it online with E3 in terms of setting the BACnet address, the Modbus address, things like that. Support materials available. I wanted to let you guys know you can go to copeland.com/CC200 and we have good support material available there. We have the full user guide. We have a little quick start guide. And then we have like a 1 or 2 pager that says, hey, here's the mobile app. Here's how to download it. So really good manuals with good instructions in them. And they're out there. They're available for you guys to use. Something else we do is inside the mobile app. I'll show you in just a bit. Inside the mobile app, you can click on CC200 docs and it'll take you directly into the manual and the quick start right from the mobile app. Like I've been talking about, Bluetooth was a big new feature we wanted to add, and very happy we were able to do that. So I'll tell you a little bit about the mobile app and then we can do a little live demo, hopefully. I've prepped my demo station and so hopefully it doesn't let me down. So the app's called Cold Chain Connect and it's available on Apple and Google Play. So anybody who needs access to the can just go to their app store and download it, sign up. The registration's all automated and they're approved like right away. So there's no classes or additional sign up required. We want people that need access to this app to have it as a service tool so they can walk in, have a look at the case, have a look at the evaporator info, and get started right away. So there's some really good troubleshooting data in there. We have like 40 data points, 12 service commands, and then access to all the parameters and controller info, alarms, overrides, manual valve positioning, calibration for stepper valves. You can reboot the controller. We have some real-time graphing as well.
How long do the alarms last off the app? I'm sorry, not alarms, overrides.
The overrides are all timed, Kevin. So I think it's 10 minutes timed overrides.
Can you do an extra force defrost in there? Force something for 2 hours if you wanted to?
You can do emergency defrost, which will make it run for the full time instead of termination. Basically, it'll skip termination and run full time.
So you're just going to have to put it through another defrost then?
Yeah. Yeah. If extended defrost is something that is a good feature, we're always interested in hearing about feature requests. So you can hit me up on email or whatever. So how do you get connected? Like I mentioned earlier, you need to unlock the display, push and hold the upper right corner, swipe left or right until you see the Bluetooth icon. When you see the Bluetooth icon, push and hold. It'll start blinking. Blinking means ready to connect. And then you would open up the app. You would see the device name. We try to encourage installers to set the device name at commissioning to match whatever the case tag is. If the case is tagged with a name, then it's an easy way to associate which one you need to connect to.
So let me ask you about that. So is that how you guys are also saying the backnet ID also?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, we have a list, some predefined names, and you go in there and select it. And that also sets this name. It's a pretty lengthy list. So what I thought I'd do is I have a controller here at my desk, and hopefully everything cooperates, and I'll show you around the app real quick.
You can't say hopefully. You know what happens with Murphy.
Yeah, I know. Let me get connected here.
Did I miss the password?
Nope. It's coming up. The best part is there is no password.
Oh, that's awesome, because nothing is worse than having to call tech support to just address 1,000 of these things. Right? Yeah.
Let me get present. Give me just a sec, Brett.
He's doing this on purpose now. He's just egging me on here, just waiting for this damn password.
I'm dragging out the password, man. You may have to pause and cut while I get set up here.
He's used to cutting stuff out, so it's all good.
That's what
All right, so for all you listening, Chris gave us all the password, but didn't want anyone to know, so he just kept rolling with it. I'm just joking. Sorry.
There is no password. The only password is when you create your account at sign up. So we'll look at that last because that's
Okay.
the least attractive looking screen.
Sounds good.
So this is Cold Chain Connect. We are connected to a CC200 here on the test bench, and so I'll show you around the app and see what Q&A you have. So this screen is what you land in when you first connect, and just top to bottom you have the temp, some system info, gas type, valve type, what the relays are doing, and then we have an EEPR section, and that will expand or collapse based on if that valve is present. If the valve is not present, it'll say not configured for the system and shrink it. And then since it's a multi-evap controller, moving on down the screen, we have evap 1, 2, and 3. This one happens to be configured for 2 evaps. And within those sections, we have some really good information, I think, about all the temps on that evap, the superheat for that evap, the pressure and dew point, SST, coil out, and of course, the valve. It's all about the valve, right?
A quick question.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that it has no, wait, no, that's floating SST. I'm looking for the regular SST. Sorry. So, oh, there it is. They're right underneath PSI. Okay. All right. Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm actually curious how I said that. So scrolling on down, you have some commands, manual defrost. Every technician's hit that one before. So you can do a manual or emergency. If you do a manual, it follows the normal termination strategy. If you hit emergency, then it will run for the full time and skip the termination method.
Okay.
If you hit manual, it should throw it into defrost, and instead of saying inactive, it'll say manual. And then up top, your main state, it'll tell you what portion of defrost you're in. It'll go defrost heat. It might say drip or defrost wait if it's waiting on the lineup, or fan delay. So it's got all the sub states built in. We try to make it as descriptive as possible.
Mhm.
And then if you decide, you know what, had enough defrost, you tap on it again and you can end it. It's pretty snappy, pretty fast because of the Bluetooth. Same thing with the valve commands. If you need to calibrate your stepper valve or whatever, if you've had it unplugged, anytime you're decouple the stepper valve from the control system, plug it back in, you should calibrate. And so this makes it really easy to do that.
Will it auto close? Will it recognize it that the valve has been disconnected and see it reconnect?
So we can't currently detect when you pull the stepper valve plug. If you disconnect a module, including expansion module, or power down a module, on power up, we always do the calibration. But actually just pulling the plug, that's where we don't detect that, and you should calibrate after unplug it and plug it back in. So you got all your relays in here, overrides, hit the switch. It tells you, hey, the fan's currently on. What do you want to do? And you just do a time value. If you want to do an override, you hit save. And then it'll say override off with some time remaining. And then if anybody's ever used the E2, they probably recognize the aqua color to indicate there's an active override. So we can just cancel that, hit the switch back off, save. It's 1 to 2 seconds on those. Everything's really pretty zippy. And then down here we have service shutdown, which kills everything, shuts everything down, and then restart. That's actually a reboot. So that'll just soft reboot the case controller, totally reboot it. Up top, alarm icons. So if you tap on those, it'll give you some what the current alarms are with a little description. In the future, we have some thoughts about expanding this feature to have another icon that says, hey, here's maybe what you should check. Here's what we might check, type of like a tips type of a thing. We have some good room in here to add more features, we feel like. And then if we were to unplug a sensor or have a sensor alarm, this red icon you're seeing here up top on the 10, it would show up and you could tap on any of the icons. So along the bottom here, this is how you get around. This case tab is the main tab where you see all the data, analytics, parameters, info, and connection. Analytics is our graphing. We just went into defrost. We're seeing the spike on the graph there.
So does it hold analytics inside the controller, or can you only see live data analytics since you've been hooked to it?
So right now it's live, but we have historical on the list of features to roll out with app updates. So
this is on a live store?
No, this is at my desk. There's a simulation mode turned on.
Oh, I thought you were maybe monkeying with like a potentiometer or something.
No, I wish I could take credit for being that talented, talking and doing that with my hands in the background. But no, there's a simulation mode running right now. We have, it's a development tool basically. We use for various things, but yeah, it's turned on right now. To answer Kevin's question, right now it is live, but we're wanting to get to the point where we support 7 to 10 days at 15-second samples. It's what we have on the backlog, Kevin. And we know we need to get there with historical.
No, that would be killer. Just being able to see it. I mean,
Yeah,
they
definitely.
really open up a market for like standalone stuff too.
Definitely. So if you hit that funnel icon, you'll come in here and see everything you can graph. You can do 2 temperature, pressure, analog type values, and you can get 2 relays at a time. So you select that and hit apply. You can tap on these to get the cursor and drag and get precise, and you know exactly what the peak is or whatever. So yeah, that's your graph. And you hit this time, you can zoom out. You can also hit the share icon if you want to share that with whatever the share options on your phone are in terms of exporting it out.
On most CO2 controllers or the case controllers, you have a couple different options. When the unit hits MOP, it usually shuts the thing down. And then when it does shut it down, it also shuts the fans off. It's trying to refrain from adding any more heat load. Have you guys loaded this controller with those options as well?
Yeah, I should have hit that on the CO2 features.
Slacker. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you about the parameters and these 3 at the bottom down here. called HPS. To answer your question, yes, we do have that feature as a backup high pressure detection mechanism built in. We have that with the delay. We also have like staggered restart delay, where if you are in that situation, you can set staggered time values across different circuits to make sure that if everybody sees the event and shuts down, they don't all come back on at the same time. So you can stagger the times, make sure you don't get 100 MBH of cases coming on or whatever it is in the store.
Can you make it so the lights don't shut off so everybody doesn't have a panic attack?
That's a good question. I think the lights stay on, but I'll have to dig in on that one. I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's always been like a nightmare here lately with the shutdown, because the store sees the lights go off and it's just immediate panic attack.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's if the lights are off, that means everything's down. It's bad.
It has been a flicker and they shut down for a second. E2 restart, something restarted, but then they see the lights go off and they're like rack down, panic, start throwing away food.
I hear you. Parameters. These are the groups. You tap on a group, you can see and interact with everything in each group. These, like I mentioned earlier, these group names are the exact same group names on E2 and E3, and they're in the exact same order. Everything inside each group is in the exact same order as it is on E2 and E3. Some meticulous organization there we hope pays off. We'll just go into system setup, for example. I think this is a good example of some new approach we've taken to naming and descriptions. Just refrigerant, expansion valve type, number of coils, for example, looking down through the list, breaking from the 3-digit and abbreviation model that we've used before and using this model as an example. And then in the list, we have some good options, good naming as well. Stepper, pulse, TV.
Do you also have the capability to do pulse and defrost with this case controller as well?
That is pending right now. Are you talking about, did you say pulse defrost?
No, pulsing, like any SWIFT control. Maybe I said defrost, it's late.
Both of those are pending features.
Okay.
So that A2L, those are all coming in the next builds. We recently released ultra low superheat CO2 systems and anti-sweat, pulse, and pulse defrost as well. Something I should have mentioned earlier is we just recently released demand defrost. So we had a ton of lab time and we've had some customer pilots where we're getting good success, good energy savings, good reliability out of demand defrost.
All right. Since you brought it up, I got to ask. So obviously areas that have less humidity are going to do better with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the numbers show. We have some, I'll say in the Southeast, we have one in the extreme north. We're trying to get one in the Midwest right now. So yeah, up north, it totally obliterates scheduled defrost. In the Southeast, sometimes it beats scheduled, sometimes it needs to defrost more than scheduled would. But I think there's a case you can make for sometimes in the harsh conditions, scheduled won't keep up, or maybe scheduled inadequate, in that it doesn't really know that employees like to have the door open when a truck hits the dock the entire time.
It has its place.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I see more issues with the adaptive defrost than the scheduled, but like it does have its place when they're leaving the door open and it's actually getting to defrost more.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. But we spent a lot of time developing it and doing, I'll say, some data science approach to it and testing it a ton before releasing it. So it is reliable and yeah. I should have put that in earlier. So yeah, you're just moving on down through the parameters. That's what this tab's all about. And then BACnet and Modbus are the two tabs you will not see in E3 here in a moment. And that's just because this is where we would set up our address. Real straightforward. Set your address. When you set the address, it's going to ask you, do you want to reboot the controller? Hey, you need to reboot. And it'll take care of that for you all with one tab. So it's not really depending on you to read the manual and know, hey, I should have done a reboot. Whoops. It takes care of it.
You have to do a reboot every single time you change a specific parameter, whether it be like the Modbus, BODNet, whatever.
No, the only things that require a reboot are in these two groups, BACnet and Mod. Everything else changes right away.
Okay.
So last couple things I'll show you, and then we'll jump into the E3 if you want to, is just this info tab has some basic info about the controller, software versions, and BACnet addresses and things like that. And then if you want to disconnect, you hit the bottom right guy there or the top link icon. And so if we were to disconnect, this is what a connect screen looks like. And I've got your little user profile. You can do all your user admin type stuff. And then if you want to connect, tap the controller and pulls in everything very quickly. Everything loads up nicely.
Hey, Chris, I had a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Unrelated to the CC200, I just had a question. Your training center that you guys just recently built up in Ohio.
Yeah.
How far is that from Pittsburgh?
Ooh, I'd have to Google Maps that one.
What town's the training center in? I'm just curious. I'm just thinking about
it's going to be in Sydney.
Sydney.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking about dual purposing a trip.
It's only 2 hours from me.
One more time? Yeah.
It's only 2 hours for me, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty close to it.
Yeah. It's going to head up to NASRC, but the spots were full. And so now it looks like I'm going to hit the one in Pittsburgh or Irwindale. So maybe I'll see you guys there.
Yeah, I'll be at California and Pittsburgh. I couldn't make the St. Louis one.
Cool. I'll see you there. Any other questions on mobile app before I jump over to E3?
I want to see the E3.
All right.
Yeah, let's get it going.
You have to get my hands on one yet.
Really? Okay. This is going to be very case controller centric, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to start my first job with one, I think, in another month and a half.
Okay. Well, I'll show you Layout Manager, which you need to make sure that they're using Layout Manager on the screen. I'm trying to get back to StreamYard here.
That was a close one.
Okay, so like I told you, I want to show you the CC200 on E3. We have it integrated to E2, E3, and Site Supervisor. So no matter what controller end user retailer's using, you should be able to get CC200.
Now, is this on a live site?
This is the CO2 center that you just mentioned earlier.
Oh, out in Sydney. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a CO2 lab where we have all new CO2 racks. We have all CO2 cases running, and we have some CC200s there. So this view that you're seeing right now is it's called Layout Manager. And Kevin, I'm sure Emerson's involved with your projects, but if they're not, I would encourage you to get familiar with Layout Manager. So the default summary you've probably seen, which is like the tiles. Tiles are great for certain situations. Everybody has their preference, but it can be a lot if you have a big store. And so you can change up the default view to be Layout Manager. That's where you get more of this tiled look.
Yeah,
so
it looks way better.
It's a preference thing. You can blow up one section or the other.
Oh, damn.
sensor controls. So since we're talking about it, I'll show you real quick and then we'll jump back to CC200. So you can go to layout manager and you can go create a layout. And this is all, you can do this with your laptop if you're plugged in, or you can do it on screen. I'd say probably it's more laptop friendly. So you can name it and then you can start building up what you want. You can choose a template. I think this feature is awesome. It's so powerful. It builds on kind of the quadrant look of what the E2 was. But anyway, you can pick a template and get started. And you go in here and so in quadrant 1, you say, I want a table. I want it to be a fridge and I want to put hundreds in it. And then you can start saying, okay, I want to know about the EPR and its set point. And so you can start building up this table view.
Now, is that anything on that? Will this be displayed on the main screen, or is that like subtiles? Like when you go into, say, if you click EPR control value, and will all the CC200s be on that screen? And then you can go into that CC200 and see that value without drilling farther deeper into it.
Let me see if I can answer. So these 4 quadrants that, or whatever template you pick,
Yep.
Anything you put in here will now become the layout. So see how this has 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
It allows you to pick what goes in each box and what goes in each column and everything.
Let's see if, like, on the, say on the left hand side you had all your circuits, okay, and you wanted it to be a circuit layout. Do you have to click each individual circuit to be on there, or does it auto do it all?
It sucks them all in.
Okay, and then you can click on the, so where it says filtered pressure and current superheat. Those are those tiles, extra tiles you got to click what you want to see, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That is 1,000 times better than the tiles.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I wanted to give this some good press, because we use it in our labs and we're planning to use it on a big rollout at the big box store next year. And I think it's just a really great feature that allows the climate pros or whoever, CoolSys, whatever companies are doing these projects, to get a good refrigeration view. So
are they configurable by username?
I think they are. So like you can do the different user personas. You can say user default layout is RX. So this is the RX template for this controller.
Okay.
They also save in the backups as well.
So if you have a preferred method of the way that you like seeing it, you could save it under your profile name, and then it'll load that up as soon as you put your password in.
Yep. You go here, my profile, layout home screen, set home layout, RX. So boom. So CC200. This is a CO2 case running a 3-coil pulse valve. We've had some planned shutdowns and some unplanned. I'm not super familiar with the lab. I am familiar with this case and the CO2 case controller there. Really good view, huge improvement over E2. As I'm sure you guys have spent hours in front of the E2 screen. Over here, you have the tiles, the rows, mode of op, next scheduled defrost, gas type. This is all your point-by-point data. Like I said, this guy is CO2, so no surprise, the superheat runs quite high. And you got your graph in the middle, of course. You're probably already aware that unlike E2, we can do real-time mode on here. So if you click real-time, we can go grab DAT, active temp, and the valve. You can get whatever you want and throw it on there and hit graph. You can blow it up and it'll start building the graph out. You can zoom in, zoom out. Really powerful feature. And then of course we have the historical The E3 logging just blows the E2 away in terms of capacity. You can get days and days, weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of logs if you aren't wasteful about how you set it up, but it just has a ton more memory and capability in that regard. Any questions?
No, I'm good as of now.
So if
Yeah.
you recognize along the top, here's all of our parameter tabs for the controller. And system setup, set points, defrost. This is the exact same order as you saw on the mobile app. I'll show the same tab as I did on the mobile app. Edit, view. If you click edit, refrigerant, compression type, number of coils, everything's here. Your valves.
So I do have a question now that
Yep.
you're going into this. If you is there the same option in the E2 where you could basically either pull the program back or vice versa?
Yeah. Yeah, we have that parameter sync here for the communication sync when they first start communicating. That also applies, like this config sync action also applies whenever a device transitions from offline to online. That synchronize. We also have the commands in the top right where we can go read from or write to device. And so those may be the commands you were referencing there. Another cool command, we got a few here. We got the usual stuff for case controllers, manual, emergency, and defrost, reboot. You can actually enable Bluetooth from here. So if you're on the phone or maybe you're at the E3 or, oh, I want to go connect to that, you can just hit this and it'll enable Bluetooth and it'll be ready to connect when you walk out there. I think the help text is worth mentioning. It's all there. I think they've done a good job on the help text in terms of saying, hey, this is what it is. Here's how it works. It's very comprehensive. And additionally, if you hit the question mark up here, and it's searchable. So that's a nice feature that we didn't have on E2. There's also this online doc link. So you can hit this and it takes you straight to E3 and product docs. On the far right, we have IO status. So this just shows everything. All right. If you weren't able to find it in the status or anywhere else, this is just all of your point-by-point status. There's also something unique about E3. I'll skip back over here to the right and then come back, is generic alarms. So E2 didn't really have this capability. If you have a specific thing that you're watching or that you want to get notified about, maybe you have a suspicion about what's going on in the circuit, or maybe the customer has a request, you can do these generic alarms, and it allows you to pick any point from the integration and decide that you want to create your own alarm based on, I'll just click this. And there's all kinds of options about, you can make this a high limit alarm or maybe a low limit alarm, and you can set limits. If it's an on-off type point, you can do some things on change of state, and you can name it. So it's really flexible. It's kind of an added feature in case you need it. I'm sure guys will be getting creative with those. So yeah, this is the E3 CC200. I think maybe one other thing I'll cover real quick is if you hit this wrench icon down here, these are customizable as well. So click and drag changes your order. Maybe we want to throw the coil outs on there.
Now, if someone wants to get familiar with the E3, they technically have to have an E3, or is there something that they can have, or some sort of program that they can simulate with an online version or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know we have a tool called Offline Manager. I'm not sure if it's internal only, so send Andre and I an email and see, and I'll check with the guys and see if Offline Manager is external. So we can check on that for you.
Cool.
But yeah, these tiles over here are customizable to fit your needs, whatever you're doing for that store or for that customer. They're doing all their stores the same. And you just would click save. So that's what we got, man. Huge improvement over E2. A lot of great new features. You got the send to, where you can copy parameters right on the controller. That used to be an ultra site only type thing. And then you got your network summary. And you can see.
Graphing is a huge improvement.
Yeah. Oh man, the graphing is.
It's so quick. There's no laggy.
Yeah, it is pretty quick.
Is this thing pretty loaded up with the lab there?
Oh yeah, the lab. This lab E3 is pretty heavy. You can see we've got 84 apps in Ref, 35 in other, 21 in systems. Other is going to be all your flexies and other combiners. Yeah, this thing's pretty loaded right now.
So you might want to make known that there are a lot of applications that now have been integrated in there to alleviate a lot of the flexible combiners, right, for CO2 operation, right?
Yeah, that's true. I should zoom out a bit from case controls. Yeah, there has been a huge effort by the E3 integration. The E3 engineering team to look at all the lessons learned and all the early experiences of CO2 on the E2, which were, I'll say, various applications, learning as you go as CO2 was rolling out. We had flex combiners, digital combiners, and suction groups, and stuff we're doing with the gas controller. And we had a flex combiner to handle case controller startup and shutdown to stagger. All that's been packaged up into a new suction group, new condenser on the E3. It's really clean. Let me see if I can hit a suction group real quick for you. If you hit these icons, you can jump around to apps.
Oh, wow. Yeah, go to the liquid injection. Let's scope out what that's set for.
Here. So here's our low. Here's a low temp suction group. Actually, let's go to MT.
I was going to say it's going to be medium temp. See, suction monitor.
So the takeaway here is we have in these suction groups, we have these load enable inputs, and all the CO2 stuff is baked in. So you connect your load enables. See if I can find one. You connect your load enables to your circuits directly from the suction group. The suction group handles all the staggered shutdown to startup. If you do get into a shutdown situation, instead of having additional flex combiners in between the suction group and the cases, it's a lot more streamlined now between the suction group and the cases.
So when it goes into a high pressure event, does it actually show like a higher set point than what it typically does? Or does it shows the current temperature and then just shows that you have a high pressure and MLP alarm?
On the suction group or the cases?
Either. Or I guess it would be on the circuit, right? Because on the E2, if you have the XM circuit there, it jumps it up to like 32 degree for a set point, right?
So we're not really doing it that way on the new stuff. You have a load enable that connects directly into the case controller load enable, and it just tells it to shut down instead of doing a set point shift.
Okay.
So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kev, do you have any more questions?
No, I did a pretty good job answering them.
Yeah, I told you. He was like, hey, we're just going to go through the presentation. I was like, you can have questions at the end. I'm like, no, the questions are just going to come as we go. We're going to figure it out. I was like, wait a minute, how about this? Well, how about this one, you know?
Yeah, happy to.
Very cool. Chris, I really appreciate you coming on here. Man, we got to figure out a way to get out. I just actually did a Google search, and it looked like from Pittsburgh to Sydney, it's 4.5 hours. So,
yeah, email Andre and get something going, and we'd be happy to have you guys. Really appreciate you having us on and letting us show off CC200 and E3 and the mobile app. And yeah, really appreciate the time.
Have these guys back on to go over the E3 some more.
Yeah, we can round up the E3 guys and maybe do a joint call or get one of the main E3 guys to come give you a test run.
For sure.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.